Hey guys, it's Bea. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video, we're gonna do a Netflix series review, and the series that we're gonna talk about is called Squid Game. So if you don't know, it's this survival death games kind of series on Netflix. The main character, Gi-hun, gets to be invited to participate in these series of games wherein he can potentially win 45.6 billion Korean won, as I recall. But little did he know, and as well as the other participants, if you don't do well in the games, you can actually die. Okay, so this video is going to be divided into two portions. So the first one is a spoiler-free general review of the show, and then the latter half will be talking more about the show. We're going to discuss things that happen throughout the show and like sort of deep dive more about like why I said some things during the general review of the show. So yeah, let's get started. In terms of like the survival games genre, I feel like it's just okay. Like in terms of the games, I feel like the other shows that came before it did it a lot better. In like a lot of different aspects. Like there are ways that you can really shine with the survival death genres, and I feel like this one tried to be so many things at once that it failed to shine in any, particular case. So for example, in the survival death genre, you could really have interesting games, and like the way your character survives can be really interesting. Like even if people would know how things would play out, like even if everyone knows that, oh, this is the protagonist, obviously he's gonna win these and that games. So that one's pretty obvious, but you can still, be really creative and imaginative in terms of how that person or that character is going to survive these games. So I feel like in terms of like Squid Games and how the main character survived the different games he played, there wasn't that much creativity in it. There was one instance that I enjoyed the games because there was a little bit of creativity in it. There was a bit more thinking in how he won the games, but like overall, I didn't really see that in like most of the games. So yeah, that's why like in that department of survival death games, it didn't really do well or didn't really shine in it. Another way to be really interesting and to stand out is, in terms of like the death, because there's going to be a lot of deaths in this show. And since this show or like this type of show is filled with deaths, you're bound to like run out of new ways to kill someone, or like people are going to be tired of like the way you kill someone. So you can be really creative with that. You could be really gory, you could be really violent or something. But if you just kill characters and that's it, then yeah, in that aspect, it doesn't really shine. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I actually watched one of the shows that Squid Games was being compared to. So this is As the Gods Will. So it's a Japanese movie. So yeah, as I mentioned, in the survival games genre, it's gonna be pretty obvious like who survives, or at least like how the your protagonist will go through the entirety of the show. So for this one, I feel like even if it was expected that the character will survive, even though it's expected that these series of deaths are coming, the way it handled the different deaths was, yeah, I guess gory, but really, sometimes like I want to look away from the screen because it's disgusting. It's just like I cannot. But that's like the fun in it. It's to like bring out these sort of reactions. But if you're like just handing out deaths and it's just like, okay, then I feel like you don't really succeed in that department as well, or you don't really shine in that department as well. And it's sort of also minimizes the impact of the deaths. You can bring impact to a character's death in a lot of different ways. May it be like through the goriness of it, may it be through the emotional impact of it, or like through surprise. So yeah, there's so many ways to bring impact. But in terms of like the deaths that happened, I feel like the most sort of like impact or emotion that it drew out from me was just disappointment. Disappointment at how it was executed. And I feel like that's my case with the series overall, is like how it was executed. I read about like the director planning this series for years, and I honestly don't see that sort of planning in the show. I mean, if you're gonna take the story overall, I feel like the end of some storylines had a lot of loose ends in it, or some were just like dropped entirely. So yeah, that's like the show as a whole already. What else? Oh, in terms of like the death survival games kind of genre, it does bring forth something new, or sort of like highlight something more than the others, which is like the societal aspect of it. I feel like for like the death games genre, a lot of it usually is just like about the deaths and the violence of the deaths. But for this one, I feel like it's sort of really tried to showcase the societal side of it as well, like the economics, the rich and poor thing as well, the struggles of the poor versus the rich and things like that. It showcases it really well, so I'll give it to that. But I think like overall, since I mentioned it was just trying to juggle so many sort of themes, messages that it was trying to get across, it didn't really shine that much. Like even with the whole societal aspect of the games, for me it was just okay. Like I mentioned, there were a lot of loose storylines, and at the end I feel like they were just like trying to get out all of these messages, like churn them out and to just get them out there. I'm confused as to why they weren't able to imbue some of the message better in like the overall series. I feel like they had so many chances and like 9 episodes to do that, but I feel like cramming it all in the 9th episode was just like too much, and it kind of felt like it came out of nowhere, like the societal message, like some of the societal messages. So yeah, that's like how I feel about this series. Another thing about like series, another way to really have impact on your viewers is in terms of like twists that you can involve all over your storytelling. Yeah, in terms of twist, there is a twist, but honestly, except for like the twist at the end, I feel like a lot of the things that happen throughout the story are pretty expected. I don't know if it's because of like I have been watching a lot of shows in my lifetime, and I've seen a lot of survival death game kind of content, not just movies, series. I've also read manga because like the manga community has a lot of content with like survival death games. So I don't want to be super negative about the show. So let me talk about things that I enjoyed about it. There is one of the games that they played wherein I kind of enjoyed it. And then another thing that I enjoyed overall is the acting of the characters in the show, except for the rich people. Like, I'm gonna be super vague. You know who I'm talking about when I say rich people. I don't like their acting. It's not like the main rich people, like the extra rich people. I hate their acting. I hated their acting. They ruined the entire show for me. But overall, like the main cast was amazing in terms of their acting. Okay, so another commendable thing about this show is how much of the things that happen is very grounded on reality. So I feel like this show is something that you can really imagining happening somewhere around the world. Like I feel like a lot of the aspects, a lot of the things that happen can be very real. It can be like it could be happening somewhere out there. Like it makes sense. So yeah, not just that. I feel like things that also transpired, like the different reactions of the characters, I feel like they're very real, especially the reaction of the main character at the end. Even though I dislike what happened overall, I feel like it's very real. And that's something that I will like expound on more in the latter part of this video, because it will like entail me telling more about the details about what happened in the show. So if this is like your first rodeo with a survival death games kind of series content, I feel like you can enjoy Squid Games. I mean, visually, it has a lot of aesthetic shots, aesthetic scenes. I feel like, yeah, if you haven't seen a lot of survival death games, if you're not familiar with all the twists and turns that it could take, if you haven't seen a lot of games being played out and things like that, of like how characters can survive, I feel like you can enjoy this show. But if you're a veteran in this type of genre, I feel like this is just like a subpar type of survival death games kind of show. So yeah, overall, I mean, it's an okay show for me. I mean, I definitely am still planning to watch the second season if there is a second season. It isn't like the best survival death games kind of show, but you know, I'm very much still curious as to what, you know, they're planning to say about it. And like, you know, like I mentioned, because it does like show the societal impact of these games. So I'm really curious as to how that will play out more, you know, in like future seasons, if there is any. So yeah, that's it for this review, this spoiler-free review. If you want to, you know, discuss more about the show, if you're interested in like the expounded details of the show, feel free to continue on to like the latter part of this review video, wherein I talk more about the different things that I couldn't talk about right now because this is a spoiler-free section. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you have any comments or questions about the show, feel free to put them down below in the comment section. And if you like this video, feel free to click the like button. And if you want to be updated for my future uploads, feel free to subscribe to my channel. So yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! Okay, so let's get started with the spoiler section. Honestly, it's hard. Where do I start? So yeah, I guess let's start with how much I feel this show is grounded in reality. The end of it all is that rich people are doing this because they're bored. I mean, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, this isn't the first show that sort of talks about how rich people are trying to entertain themselves. There's also this movie in the US that wasn't able to go out in the theaters because it involved shooting other people, other human beings. And the rich people were doing that. They were hunting real life humans for fun, for entertainment. So yeah, this isn't like the first show about it. And I feel like somewhere in the world this is happening. I mean, yeah. Yeah, this can definitely happen somewhere out there. And like I mentioned, like the way things ended, I actually didn't really enjoy it that much. I feel like the entirety of the show, and like the bigger picture and like the grand scheme of things, I feel like nothing happened. It's like we just went on a cycle of someone playing games and they're back for another set of games, and that's it. Like nothing changed in the system. And I feel like that's very much true with the world, the society, the system that are in place right now, wherein the elite get to enjoy the world and everyone below them is struggling to just like live on and like try to get out of this hell that this elitist system sort of created. So yeah, even though you're aware of the truth, nothing really changes. It doesn't really change. And that's why I'm really looking forward to like another season or more of the story from the director. Like now that Gi-hun knows about it, what is he gonna do? What can he do? Like he's just one person who isn't really, you know, doesn't have a lot of power in this world. So how is he gonna topple this Goliath of a system that was built to sort of benefit the top 1% of the world. In terms of like surprises all throughout the show, yeah, like I mentioned, a lot of the things that happened didn't really surprise me. That's why the only games that I enjoyed was the tug of war, because you know that they're gonna win, but the way it happened was really unexpected. It was creative. That last minute thinking from Sang-woo was really wow, and you know it was fun to watch. But yeah, other than that, there wasn't really any other interesting games. The marble games were a bit interesting. Like, I kind of feel even before they started, like when they were asked to pair up, like, oh, this is probably gonna be a one-on-one battle. Like, after they teamed up and like united during the previous games, they're just gonna tear those like relationships apart. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. And you know, with that kind of one-on-one battle, you're kind of expecting, or you kind of already know who's gonna survive. And because of that, like during the supposed emotional parts of it, I couldn't really fully enjoy it because I kind of already know where it was gonna happen. And so, for example, when they were like building that relationship between Sebyok and the other girl, so it was pretty obvious who was gonna survive. And like throughout the entirety of the match, they were sort of trying to build a relationship between the two characters and sort of like have more of that emotional impact when the obvious new character dies. And because I feel like they were trying to build that relationship between the two characters a bit too late, it didn't really have that much impact. And yeah, it was pretty obvious who was gonna die. That wasn't really much of a case between the foreigner and Sang-woo. Of course, we've seen the foreigner guy from the start. He helped Gi-hun during the first games. Like, Gi-hun was able to survive because of him. So we've already established that connection with him. We also see his family and like the reason why he went back to the games, like why a kind-hearted person like him went back to the games. So I feel like it was a lot more frustrating, especially for me, when he lost to Sang-woo. But you know, it was very much in character for Sang-woo. I don't know, it was really expected that he was gonna betray this other person. Like, we've already seen him be, you know, a bit sly, like during the second games. Like, even though he had an idea or inkling as to what the second games was, he still, you know, didn't really say anything to his teammates. Pretty much standard for Sang-woo. I think Gi-hun versus the old guy, that was, I don't know why, but that one still didn't have any emotional impact for me. Maybe because, yeah, everything felt like I already expected things were gonna happen that way. Yeah, it's also partly my fault because I sort of guessed already or anticipated already the things that were gonna happen in the games. Okay, so in terms of storylines, I'm really disappointed with how they just dropped the whole storyline with the police looking for his brother. I don't know if it's just finished like that or if they get a new season, there's going to be more of it. But since we don't have anything right now, yeah, I really hate how that one ended, how that just ended literally in a cliffhanger. They were right off that cliff and then the policeman was shot. And that it just ended there. I was really disappointed with how that ended. And then another storyline that I wish they explored more was the whole, you know, the people who are working for the games, the whole workers doing their thing. I don't know why, but they sort of like highlight how the people working there were very young. I don't know if has any sort of, you know, deeper meaning in terms of the story, but they didn't really explore it. I wish they explored it more as to why these workers are working there. Like, you know, why is it okay for them to just start killing people, or like, yeah, like any more from these workers. But I don't know. I guess the director wished to really focus on the players themselves. In terms of the people behind the games, we kind of explore that with the old man during the 9th episode, but other than that, there's really nothing. I mean, the policeman even tried to get his brother to tell him, like, why is he doing all this? Why is he, like, letting these death games happen? But yeah, nothing. In terms of, like, the exploration of the characters, it was kind of weak as well. We do get to establish bonds with, like, the main characters, but, like, the main villains, I don't know, they were just, like, pegged as villainous type of players, and that's pretty much it. They just plunge themselves to death. And yeah, I feel like it was also a missed opportunity to sort of explore those characters, especially the mother, because at first, like during the first part of the games, wherein they had a chance to get out of it, she was one of the people who kind of begged to be let out, you know? But like she returned, and when she returned, she was really ruthless. So, you know, it would have been nice to really explore her villainous side as well. So yeah, a lot of things that I wish the story was able to explore. But yeah, the story didn't explore it. Instead, they chose to showcase those like really elementary sexual jokes. Yeah, the whole VIPs shouting 6996. Wow, I mean, are you in grade school? What the heck, man? I mean, I feel like if they just didn't talk, it would have been more powerful, like seeing those VIPs with their mask on there, like treating other people like objects, treating other people like not really like humans. That would have been more powerful, but they chose to speak, and I feel like it ruined a lot of the episode wherein they appeared, the VIP episode. I think it was episode 7 or 6 or whatever. It just ruined that episode for me, the whole atmosphere. Okay, so now about the game. So this isn't just like how interesting the characters made it out during the games, but I feel like in terms of the games themselves, like we have this like very Korean centric games, like the honeycomb candy, and also the red light, green light, and we also have the squid games. I feel like they're supposed to have cultural impact, but in terms of like the storytelling, in terms of the show, the dialogues that were thrown out throughout the episodes, they didn't really have any impact. I've been trying to like search like any cultural history about the Squid Games. I mean, why is it like the title of the show anymore to like give it more meaning than it just being a violent game? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like I wish we had more about the games and the impact of them being childhood games, and then right now they're being used as games for people to die and things like that. So I don't know. Yeah, or maybe that's just it. From being childhood games to being death games. Okay, so I mentioned during the first part of the general review how the show sort of tries to cramp in a lot of things at the end of the show. That being like the whole side of the game makers is, they only tried to explain it in the latter part of the last episode. I feel like if they had more time to talk about it, I think it would have been better. And also like during that end part wherein the old man and Gi-hun was suddenly betting about the goodness in people's hearts. I mean, kind of out of nowhere. Okay, I feel like this show was never about goodness in people, because in the first place, the people who are participating in these games are sort of like the ones at the lower, really lower end of the spectrum, the ones in hell and the ones in depth. And like people like Gi-hun, who sort of put himself in there like through gambling, who took money from his mother, wiped out the money for insurance and things like that, health insurance from his mother. I mean, these people seemed like the lowest of the low. So like if we're talking like goodness in people's hearts, I feel like we never really expected it from any of the people or like any of the players actually. I feel like amongst the players, the only person that I can, classify as a good person would be the foreigner, which I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. I'm really bad with names in terms of shows because I watch a lot of shows, so I'm so sorry. But yeah, I feel like he was like the kindest player and everyone else was like, I don't really expect any goodness from them. Yeah, so if we're talking about the goodness in people's hearts, this show is never really about that. If they took normal people from their everyday lives, much like how Liar Games did it, maybe we can start like talking about the goodness in people's hearts. Okay, so other things that happened in the show that I really want to talk about is how Sebyok died. So I feel like her character was really badass, and yeah, she was really making it throughout the games, and then she suddenly gets injured and, because of that, dies. I feel like it was really lazy, like the way she was killed off. I mean, she could have been killed off in a lot better manner. I feel like they could have put more thought into it. But she was suddenly dead like that without even being able to fight, which is so sad because she was a really badass character and, she really fought her way to survive. Okay, so this is perfect. So I think this is like the last thing that I want to talk about the show, which is how the game makers, the front man, and like the old man who is hosting the games is sort of really highlighting or kind of justifying that the players chose to be there and they didn't have to be there, they chose to participate. So sort of like washing their hands from what happened to the players, all these deaths of the different players who participated. But in reality, these people had no choice. They don't have much in life to go back to. Their everyday life is already a living hell, which was highlighted during the second episode, wherein after they came back from the games, they realized how much struggle it is every day, and they don't really have much choice. They need to find another way to survive, and that's what this game is. It's another way out. But in reality, they don't have any choice in their everyday lives because they're already suffering. And then there's also this whole thing, this whole side story about someone in the games getting insider information because he was helping the other people or other workers to get the organs from the dead participants. Anyway, so my point was they were killed off, and like the front man was very angry because these group of people made the games, which was supposed to be equal or fair for everyone, unequal. But in reality, nothing was fair about these games. I mean, from the get-go, nobody even knew from the start that they were gonna get killed just by participating. They only found out like midway during the first game. It was very unfair. Like, for people to earn money, other people have to die? How is that fair? So yeah, I just really want to highlight that the way the rich people, the way those game makers are trying to wash their hands, that's not true. And even in our everyday lives, I feel like we have limited choices in what we can do every day because there's this whole system built in place wherein You can only do whatever you want if you're rich, and everyone else below it has to follow all these set of rules. And the more you are at the bottom, it is a lot harder for you to live your everyday life. You need to struggle more. You know, it's weird because the more at the bottom you are, the more you have to struggle. And then those at the very top don't really have to do anything in order to, you know, live their daily lives. It's really weird. But yeah, that's how the system is, not just in the series, but also in our daily lives. This show is definitely thought-provoking, and I think that's one of the things that I like about the show. That's why I still am planning to see more of it if there's more of it that's gonna come out. So yeah, that's it for this video. I feel like it's gonna be a very long video once I start editing. Yeah, I hope I see you guys in my next video. Bye!